expressing in the presentation are the opinions of Alex, Loyd, or myself, Johanna Chan, or possibly you if you choose to share. You should always check with a licensed healthcare provider about any specific health concerns you may have. All right, so Alex, I'm not absolutely sure which topic we're talking about today, but go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. And if you're watching this on video, I apologize. I'm really grubby. I'm in my workout clothes because as soon as this is over, I'm going to work out. So sorry for that. But yeah, what I want to address, we started a program a few weeks ago that I'm calling Deep Water. And it's talking about life issues, hard, painful, struggling, hard to tell what the right choice is, hard to tell where the right path is, situations in our life. And I call it Deep Water. And the first one I did was on the Black Lives Matter thing that's going on, especially in the U.S., but really all over the world. And it's been kind of shocking to me. Since the release of that video, I have gotten more, I'm not sure what to call it, people cursing at me and angry at me and stuff like that than I've had in over 20 years, everything else I've ever done combined. I mean, it's amazing, and along with some good encouragement too. But and everyone who's reacted that way, I've contacted them personally, and a number of them have visited with me. Some of them didn't want to. But the amazing thing to me is only 2 out of the people who contacted me with the negative opinions. And in some cases, that's understating it, really. Only 2 of them had actually watched the program. In other words, all they saw was those 3 words, Black Lives Matter, and they cussed me out for, I'm not sure for what for, because they didn't watch it, they didn't know what I said about it. But anyway, it was amazing to me that those 3 words, and with some people, it's regardless of how you use them, those are fighting words, or those are words that, I bowl over at, or something like that. And I think there's people on both sides that feel that way. But I did want to clear up a couple of things. And if you've watched the video, I think you'll see this. I am not in favor or supporting the official Black Lives Matter company, organization, whatever it is. About all I've heard about them has been not good. And that has nothing to do with our discussion. And I believe we say that in the discussion on the video. I'm also not in favor of violence in any way, form, shape, or fashion, and we do say that on the video. And what we're talking about there is just, because the whole world is talking about this, and because this is on the radar of everyone's life, and I was trying to remember back, I guess COVID would be something like that's on everybody's mind all the time. But maybe the last one I can think of like that was like the Cuban Missile Crisis from, what was that, early 60s or something like that, where, just like 3 words, Cuban Missile Crisis or COVID or Black Lives Matter, instantly, anyone in the world almost knows what you're talking about and has a strong opinion and things like that. Here's my point, and the reason for doing the whole thing. I've pretty much dedicated my life to trying to help people get to a place of peace where they are not at a place of peace, which means anxiety, fear, pain, health problems, things like that, because the body works correctly when it's in peace. When it's not in peace, that's when it malfunctions and you start to have health problems and emotional problems and things like that. So that's really what I do, is find hot buttons for me or you or a couple or a family or whatever, and see if we can heal those hot buttons and get to a place of peace, both physiologically, emotionally, relationally, etc. Okay? To me, that is the Black Lives Matter that's interesting to me and that I want to talk about. Is what is it that is harming, that is such a place of internal hurt for so many people on both sides of the issue, and is there a resolution? And some of the people that wrote me and cussed me out said there is no resolution. You know, we shouldn't even give it 2 seconds. Some of them said, yeah, there's a resolution, but the other side will never do it. And then someone from the other side says there's a resolution, but the other side will never do it. And to me, that is a wonderful opportunity to address something that needs to be resolved and healed, and if it's resolved and healed, could have untold positive ripple effects throughout families, throughout cities, throughout countries. And that's what I'm interested in, and that's what we talk about on the video segment. So if you hadn't seen it, and this is out of the blue, and you have no idea what I'm talking about, maybe go check it out. If you're one of the ones that was mad at me for discussing that, for sure, please go see exactly what I say, because I'm not for the Black Lives Organization. I'm not for violence in any form. What I'm for is healing and trying to find resolution. But I think before we can do that, there has to be an understanding of where we are and how we got here. There's a parable in the Bible where it talks about that if there's a truth that will produce positive fruit, and it uses the example of a guy out sowing seed, and he has his bag of seed that he's walking around with, because this was thousands of years ago, and they didn't have the little push things with wheels. Just got a guy with a bag of seed walking, throwing that seed. And it talks about how some of the seed will fall on rocks and die. Some of it will fall on places where there's thorns and too many plants, and it won't thrive. And some of it will fall on good soil where it can take root and produce fruit. And it goes on to say that the truth is like that. And if that truth is sown in a place where it would be fertile and produce fruit, but as it says in the manuscript, if the evil one comes and snatches the seed away before it can be understood, it will never take root and produce fruit. So the key thing that ancient manuscript says is understanding. And that's what I've found is a problem on both sides, is that there's not an understanding of the other side or of the situation as a whole. They may understand a third of it or a half of it or even 75% of it, but not all of it. I did that segment with a black friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine since college. We were on an athletic team together. And he says in the segment that he's never spoken about these things in his entire life. And at one point he starts crying. And it really surprised him. But just the hurt in him that has been activated. And anyway, he sees it as he is also not in favor of the Black Lives Organization or violence, but only in reconciliation, forgiveness, healing, solutions, things like that, okay? So that's why I think it is an important thing to talk about. And maybe even the people that responded negatively, I see it as a positive, because maybe at least we're talking. Now, some of them, when I contacted them personally, didn't want to talk to me, but some did. So that's what all of this is about for me, is trying to get to a place of peace in our lives about things where we're not in a place of peace. So I just wanted to share that, Johanna. And if anyone else wants to chime in on that, the podium's open.
All right. Thank you, Alex, so much. If any of you would like to comment or have questions regarding this, you can raise your hand by pressing star 2. Star 2 is going to raise your hand, and I'll be able to unmute your line so you can interact with Alex regarding this issue. If you're online, you can type in a question, and I can read that to Alex, and he can respond there. So I don't see any hands up just yet, Alex, but I just want to say I watched it. My husband watched it a couple of times. It was very moving. I thought it was very powerful the way the whole meeting went, and really, really touched my heart. It really helped us to even examine our hearts. So, yeah, I think it's really worth everybody watching that, and it's on YouTube, so let us know what you think.
Yeah, and that's really, that's why I started this, and that's why we have this session, especially on Wednesdays, I don't want anybody to say, okay, here's what Alex says, so that's what I'm going to believe or do. I don't ever want that. Please don't do that. What I want to do is start a discussion. And you can come here on Wednesdays and talk with us about it. But what I'd like you to do even more is what Johanna just said, which is at your kitchen table, at the break room, at the office. Times in your day, every day, let's start talking about what really matters. Psychology Today, I believe it was about 3 months ago, the cover of the magazine, it was the best cover I've ever seen. Here's what it said: love what really matters. Now, that's not a directive. Those are two separate things. It has love, and then under that, what really matters. Not love what really matters. It's saying love is what really matters. Okay? And that's it for me. That's it. That's what Jesus said. That's what Gandhi said. That's what Martin Luther King said. Go throughout history, and that's it. All right? But sometimes we can't get there until we understand the other person that we're having a difficulty with, or a wrong perception about, or something like that. So that's my whole point with this is, please, let's start talking about this stuff that really matters. And this situation with Black Lives Matter, I believe absolutely falls under that category. It's something that matters. It's something that is on everyone's radar right now, and everyone seems to have a strong opinion about it. Well, that's great. Let's talk. So that's it for me, Johanna.
Okay, very good. We have one hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I think it's Marilyn, but let's see.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Good morning, Alex.
Hi, Marilyn.
Alex, I have listened to the video, and I don't have a personal experience of, because I've never lived in America. I've traveled through it, but not lived in it. My concern listening to it is, you can talk, but unless you heal the heart, I really sort of feel that talking about it, yes, it discusses it and people think about it, but unless you heal the way you feel, I have a situation where, for me, with a black person, I don't really have a lot of issues because my grandparents were missionaries in the islands, and I heard all the stories, and so I have a very positive attitude towards black people. I have black people, Aboriginal friends and everything else. But I have a person who grew up where he had very negative experiences with the Aboriginals. So his energy is very negative towards him, is totally opposite to mine. And unless he heals that, he can talk about, and he's seen more firsthand for the Aboriginal here in Australia, the downside for them, more than I have. But unless he heals the hurt that he feels because of how it affected him, you can talk about as much as you like, but it's not going to change how he feels.
Well, I love you, Marilyn, and have for a long time. I respectfully disagree with that. There's a prefix that is COMM, and I think it means with, and it's the prefix for the word communication, for the word community, for the word communion, and all of those have a thing in common, and that's relationship, okay? And if you watch the video, Jimmy, who was the, Mr. Hampton, who was the gentleman who did it with me, the point that he started crying at, if I'm remembering correctly, was when he started talking about, some of us just need to have somebody, and he said, I'm not sure who that would be, but somebody look us in the eye and with sincerity say, I'm sorry. And that you, as a black man, do have worth to us, do have worth to America. And he started crying, and it took him by surprise. He hadn't expected that at all. But see, what he was doing, he was imagining somebody doing that with him, and he couldn't take it. It busted him up. And so I absolutely believe that I agree with you that the healing has to occur. But I believe the healing can occur through loving communication like that, where, a white person and a black person are talking, and it's nothing official with the U.S. government stamp on it, but maybe this particular white person says to the black person, hey, I know I wasn't living at that time, and I'm not sure about my ancestors, but I know you guys went through horrific stuff for years and years and years and years and years that today would be criminal, and back then it was laughed at. And I just want you to know from me, I am so sorry that your ancestors have had to go through that, and that even you, as a black man living today, says right on the segment, yes, I've been discriminated against because of nothing more than the color of my skin, and recently, in the 2000s. So I agree with you and I don't agree with you. Yes, healing in the heart has to occur, but that can happen through loving, sincere communication.
But I feel that a person who says that has to come from a place of love as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? If you Google around a little bit on the history of slavery and what those people went through, if you can read that and watch those videos and read those books and stuff like that, and it doesn't touch your heart and make you come from a sincere place, boy, you've got problems. I don't know whatever could, because I mean, that's a Holocaust type event in the history of the world. And I've been to the Holocaust Museum and just wept. So, yeah, I agree with you. It has to be sincere. But if you really understand, that's where that word understanding is so crucial. The Indians used to have a thing, never judge anyone till you've walked a day or a year or whatever in their moccasins. And that's true. So when you do your best to walk in their moccasins, to understand what they've been through over the last 400 years, I believe the average person, it will take them to a place of sincerity. My 2 cents.
How much?
My 2 cents.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just putting my 2 cents worth.
Yeah. Right.
I am fairly well read, and I mean, as I said, I haven't lived in America. I don't know the surfing experience, but I do have Aboriginal friends. I've heard. I know it's not quite the same because they weren't brought here; they lived here to start with.
Right. The American Indians would be a good example here because they lived here also as well, and were also very much mistreated. Okay. Thank you so much, Marilyn. Love you.
That's okay. Thank you.
Johanna?
Okay, sorry, I was muted. If anyone else has any questions, would like to interact with Alex, please just raise your hand. Star 2 is going to raise your hand. I'll be able to unmute your line, or if you're online, you can type in a question and I can read that to Alex. So.
And by the way, please keep sending me feedback. I hope what I've said doesn't discourage anybody from sending me feedback, even if it's cussing me out. Because, hey, that's a start. That's a start. All we need is a starting place.
Right. Okay, Alex, well, I think that's it for any questions today.
Okay. Love you, Johanna. Love you, everyone. Bye-bye.